p.m. on Thursday, January 18th, and so I will call to order the regularly scheduled meeting of the Churchill County Library Board of Trustees, and if I could have everyone please stand and say the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it serves, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, and we will open with a period of public comment. And moving on to agenda item 4, roll call of members.
David Brakebill.
Tara Price Gritzmacher.
Kelly.
Joe Petaruti.
And can we please have verification of the posting of the agenda?
The agenda was posted last week.
Thank you so much. Folks, you have your library board packets in front of you. The first action item is consideration and possible action to approve the agenda as submitted.
Motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as submitted. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing that none, the motion passes. And next, we have consideration and possible action to approve the minutes from the meeting on December 28th, 2023. The minutes are in our packet. Give folks a moment to review and to see if there are any edits. All right, and if there are no edits to the minutes, I'll accept a motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Motion to approve the minutes as submitted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second. I'll second.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as submitted. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And moving on to Library Board of Trustees reports. I will kick us off. I'd like to take a moment to, just in case everyone is not aware, we have received a notice of retirement, I suppose, from our fellow Library Board of Trustees member, Dave Brakebill, who is approaching a move to the East Coast for an outstanding job opportunity. So Dave, I just wanted to take a moment to thank you for your service to the library and for your service to the community. I remember when you first moved here and were looking for opportunities to get involved, and I think that you have, in the short time that you have been with us in Churchill County, made an indelible mark on the community. So good job. Thank you for your service, and we wish you the best of luck. Please stay in touch.
Thanks, Kelly.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
And then the only other thing that I have is I'm looking forward to attending the volunteer appreciation reception tomorrow. And I am on book number 4 for the year, which is kind of a doozy. It is spectacular and also terrifying. So, though I have not made it far in, The Ministry for the Future by Kim Stanley Robinson, the quote on the front says, "The best science fiction, nonfiction novel I've ever read." So it's a pretty good one, and it's really inside my head. So I don't know when I'll be back into the library to check out more books, because this one's pretty big. Any other Library Board of Trustees reports?
I just have a question. What was your final number of 2023?
Yeah, so I made it to my goal of 70.
Okay.
And also I want to raise awareness about an amazing site that I found where you can order custom Christmas ornaments that has miniature versions of all of the books that you've read over the course of the year. So I had to get 2 ornaments, but they are fantastic. And I'm going to move forward with commemorating my annual reading in that way.
I like it.
For perpetuity.
Madam Chair, I would also like to second your thank you to Mr. David Brakebill, because you've been a great contributor here, and you will be missed for sure.
Thanks.
We wish you all the best going forward. And I too plan to attend the volunteer reception tomorrow. You're still here, sir. You can attend too.
Looking forward to it. I'll be there tomorrow as well. And I've read several books in the last couple weeks, and don't ask me who wrote them because I don't remember, but I do know the one that I read that was really, I wouldn't call it intense, but if you're a science geek like me, I read The Evolution of Charles Darwin, sort of an autobiographical picture of his trip on the Beagle. Fascinating. Real, I mean, not maybe not fascinating, but very interesting in what he had to put up with and how he accomplished everything that he did. And read several books. That book I bought at the airport. You know, that's what you do at the airport. You buy a book. Read several books from the library. We Must Not Think of Ourselves, which was on the top shelf there at the new book section. I highly recommend that book as well. And I appreciate everybody's, thanks and all that. And it's been really interesting to see how Churchill County government, even on the small scale of the Library Board of Trustees, how it works, and their response or lack thereof. I think it's been interesting, and it's been a pleasure. I've gotten to know some really nice people, and I've had a really good time. Thanks.
Tara, anything to report?
Not really, no.
Okay, so then I will close out the Library Board of Trustees reports with two statements. And the first is a challenge. Mr. David Breakbell, when you arrive in your new hometown, I ask that one of your first personal tasks is to go find your local library and get a library card. And your second task is to consider applying to their Library Board of Trustees.
Consider it done.
All right. And then I just also want to raise awareness that there is a posting on the Churchill County Boards and Commissions page under Advisory and Governing Board openings for the vacated Library Board of Trustees position. So there is an application on there. And the more we can raise awareness about the availability of that position, the more folks we can identify who might be interested in serving with us. And with that, I will turn it over to CL for item 9, the Library Director's Report.
Thank you, Kelly. I am still making some adjustments to our statistics to bring them in line with what we report and how we report things for the annual state report. So you will see some changes. There was an error. I don't know, sometimes Excel just doesn't like me. The column that says December 24 should be December of 22 for your comparison's sake. I'm not able to predict the future yet and tell you what our statistics will be for December of 24. So we did make some changes. We are pretty much on par with what we did both last month and the previous year in terms of our circulation. And, a lot of the other things, we are giving away some more books. We're tracking, one of the changes that I made was to track the programs a little bit differently so that it is in line with what I need to report to the state so that I'm not having to do all that math at the end of the year and refiguring it out. So that is that, and I'm going to be working more with my staff to kind of align some of the other things because there's still a few changes that need to be made to get this more in line with what we need to report. I've included the minimum public library standards for Nevada because there, and the form that I completed, there were two things that we needed to do, there's one thing that we need to do, which we'll get to, which is to approve the update to the strategic plan. But I also wanted to make you aware that I did have to request a waiver of the library certification for a children's librarian, and we're working through some of those details, but that relates to the budget in that I've added a significantly more money to the training budget. So once we get to that, but I wanted you to have some background on that and what the requirements are. I applied for and received a grant from the state library to attend the Public Library Association Conference, which will be held in Columbus, Ohio, April 3rd through the 5th.
CL, just really quick, I think Joe had a question
Oh,
about
sure.
that previous
I'm
item.
sorry.
Thank you. Actually, I did. I had a little difficulty with the statement that we have about the certification for the staff, because when I looked at the NAC, I didn't see it there. Joe, can you help us out with that a little bit? It bugged me when I looked it up, and I was like, okay, this is saying that, the jurisdictions have to have a library to hold the certification.
Oh, the jurisdiction piece. So some of the stuff,
But the wording is not there about additional staff and this statement that we haven't read.
the wording directly in the NAC is not exactly the wording here. And that's common. Obviously, the NAC is a much more condensed version of what the
NRS
state
would be.
library is actually saying they believe that to mean.
So is there an associated NRS that I should have looked at, or no?
You're not going to find it. If I.
No.
Yeah, so typically what happens, and Joe, if I get this wrong, just let me know, but the legislature will pass NRS, they pass statute. And then the administrative code is written by the different state agencies who are tasked with implementing the NRS. And then the state agency also has the opportunity to kind of determine, in this case, the state library, through this minimum public standards, what that means. And so they,
So they further interpret the NRS through an NAC and then into their own procedures. So if a human like me goes to look at the NAC and we don't see this language here, we have to assume that it's in their own procedures, not available to the public. Thank you, Hutz.
Right, so this citation of
That's all I
NAC
got to say about that.
379010 is more of like a reference that would say, if you go look here, you'll see that this is sort of where we came to this from.
But I
And
did
so-
go look there, and I guess because I was expecting to see the language there, and I didn't, this language there, and I was kind of bugged, that's all, I'm sorry.
and just so there's a little bit of context to this, there's a history related to this expectation and how this expectation is communicated and enforced over the past. And part of the challenge is that at some point, there ceased to be an institution in the state of Nevada that provided the certification or MLIS programs. And so now, a person who is seeking this certification or a master's in library systems or library information systems would need to go to an out-of-state institution in order to secure that certification. There are some that are available asynchronously and online, and I know that CL has some information further in the packet about it, so I won't speak to that a whole lot. But over the course of the last several months, it has been lifted up by the state library that it is their intention to hold libraries more accountable to this particular requirement.
I will say it's not uncommon for there to not necessarily be an educational opportunity within the state. When I went to grad school in 99 through 2001, we had a lot of students from Virginia because they did not have a program there, and so they mostly came to North Carolina for that. So while it would certainly be better if there was something offered more locally, it unfortunately isn't that uncommon.
So does the state notify us, or did the state notify us of the fact that we might be lacking in this area? I mean, I'm still curious as to how we determined that we had to meet a requirement that I couldn't
Well,
find.
this minimum public library standard sheet that's in your packet that has
Yeah, we've dealt with this every year in the past, but it's this one statement in red that's got me bugged.
right. Well, I
So I'm
had
trying
to
to
sign
figure out
off.
where it came from, that's all.
Oh, this has always been in the minimum public library standards, or at least for the last few years.
Yeah.
I'm not sure why or how or what was done previously. I just know that I didn't feel like I could sign off that we were meeting this, given the fact that we aren't.
Okay.
So I did request a
It's
waiver.
oversight on my part then, I guess. I should have looked back a couple of years.
I did request a waiver, and we have been granted a waiver for 2 years on this, which should give us adequate time.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay, so I did receive a grant to attend the Public Library Association Conference in Columbus in early April. Earlier in my career, I was very fortunate to have gone quite a few times and found it quite beneficial. I haven't been in about 10 years, so I am looking forward to going this year and seeing what else is new with public libraries and seeing the vendor hall and all of the new things that we could potentially look towards doing in the future. So that is that. We do have our volunteer reception tomorrow night at 6 o'clock, and thank you all for RSVPing. I appreciate it. We've got about 35 people attending tomorrow, so should be a good evening, and the staff will all be there. We have coming up with the museum and the Churchill Library Association are working on a Roaring 20s event to be held at the CAC on Saturday, April 6th. So I hope those of you who have not left us will be able to attend. I think it should be a lot of fun, and we're going to have some raffle baskets, and I know there's somebody arranged for a private, I'm not sure if it's a helicopter or I think it's a helicopter ride, or a small plane. So that should be pretty exciting if you've never done that and have a desire to do so. I'm not so sure I want to do it, but I'm sure that a lot of people would find that fun, and there will be lots of other raffles and surprises, and it should be a good time. Diane Wargo will be retiring. Very sad about that. She has been with us for 29 years. She had her first snow day last week in 29 years, so that was that was exciting. So yeah, just wanted to make you aware of that. Dave's position will be advertised in the papers on January 19th and January 26th. Also very sad to see Dave go. He's made a lot of insightful comments in the short time that I've been here, and I think made us think about things and been a huge advocate for the library and supporter. So we'll miss that and hope that we can find someone to fill those shoes, because they're big ones. The adult services librarian position closed last Friday. Are reviewing applications and hopefully getting some interviews set up for that soon so that we can get somebody in place before too long, because it's going to be challenging for the staff, especially, we're still in sick season. So, if somebody's on vacation and then we have somebody out sick, it's going to be a little challenging, but we will rise to the occasion, and hopefully it will not be for a very extended period of time.
CL, excuse me, did you say how many applications you had received? I'm sorry.
Well, we received about 40. Joff went through them and eliminated those that did not have library experience, and so I believe we're down to about 9. Yeah. So hopefully we'll be able to identify someone who can fill that role. Yep.
All right, are there any questions for CL about her library director's report?
I don't have a question. I just have a statement. Looking at the statistics, and I've said this once, and I'm going to say it again. You look at the statistics, the slope in general of every statistic of a person walking in the door of the circulation of the library is going up. As the county population goes up, as the city population goes up, as these numbers continue to go up, it stands to reason we're going to need more space.
We absolutely need more space. I've talked a little bit to Kelly about, there's some opportunities with the state library. They're providing any libraries that are interested with a study pod. And I'm desperately trying to figure out where we can place that in the library. People are always looking for meeting room space and individual study space. And again, that goes back to the minimum standards and why I'm trying to make sure that we adhere to things, because if we don't adhere to those, we're no longer eligible for the LSTA funding that the state library provides. So, but yeah, not having a large meeting room, it's just so difficult. It's hard to fit. The sign in the annex says that we can have 40 people in there, but I want to see how people would have to be awfully close to make that happen. So,
Well, I certainly hope that, in the future, the county looks at this and says, we spent $14 million on an arena, maybe we could spend 10 or 15 on a new library, and let's bring Churchill County up to the 21st century and get things rolling. That's my hope. I don't know if it'll happen. That's my hope.
well, I hope that it happens and that we can invite you back for the grand opening.
Any other questions for CL about her library director's report or statements? All right, hearing none, we will move on to setting the date and time of the next regularly scheduled Library Board of Trustees meeting. That meeting is scheduled for Thursday, February 15th, 2024 at 3 p.m. at the Churchill County Administration Building located at 155 North Taylor Street in the Commission Chambers. And moving on to seeing no old or unfinished business, we'll move on to new business. Item 1, consideration and possible action to approve the monthly budget report. The budget report is in your packet. Now's a great time to ask any questions that you might have for CL about the budget report.
CL, on page 3 of 9, under E materials. Sorry, I keep hitting that little button by accident, and shutting it off. Under E materials, so we're going up by
Yes.
$5,400.
It's about in the middle of the page, right?
Excuse me, yes, about midway. So can you talk a little bit about, I know we discussed the Mango languages. I'm not familiar with what the advanced digital payment was for Midwest Tape.
That
And then
is,
can you talk to whether those will be annual expenses going forward?
okay. Mango Languages would be an annual expense if we decide to continue the subscription. We've had a lot of people enthusiastic about it, but obviously I want to see what sort of statistics we get. And we just rolled that out as of, pretty much the first of the year. So that would be an annual expense. It's a great program. Families can link accounts. So if people, are going to be traveling and they want to share their learning experience together, they can do that. There's quite a lot of languages available, including some ESL languages, which, it's good for trying to meet some of our strategic plan goals. And I want to say there's about 75 languages. There is Pirate, which I'm not entirely sure that I would consider a language, but it's, kind of a little fun there. So if you want to learn Pirate, you can do that as well. The expense for Midwest Tape is for our Hoopla. They are the provider for that. So we are spending about $1,000 a month. So we've been paying them kind of in advance on deposit. So that money stays there.
Okay, thank you. Also, in the next category down, we have a book charge for $1,381. Someone always nearby?
That is just the first title on that particular invoice.
Oh, okay. Wow,
I assure you, I'm not spending $1,300 on any one book.
okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I think
That's
it's
good.
been a couple of years, but I remember back when we were at the annex being like, that's a lot of money on one book. And so then it had to be explained to me too, that like the way that the budget works, it just includes the first title
Okay.
of the purchase.
And then I have a couple of, stupid thing. I have a couple of utility questions.
Sure.
What is going on with this button?
It doesn't like you. Don't touch it.
I just go near it and it shuts itself off. Okay. We have two sets under utilities. So the first with the city of Fallon.
Right.
Can you explain
It's,
to me why we have two sets?
well, it's just the way that the payments fell. If you see the
Oh, okay.
first set are for November and then the second set are for December.
Oh, okay, thank you. I didn't notice the dates.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. And so that would explain the same with the Southwest Gas.
Yes.
Okay, and then just one more question from me, please.
Ask away.
On page 6 of 9,
Uh-huh.
this is under the non-federal grant expertise,
Uh-huh.
expense. Nietzsche Academy annual subscription? What's up?
Niche
what is that?
Academy is a tool that both allows some staff training and allows us to create some public training. They provide some videos for things so that if somebody has a question about how to set up a Hoopla account, there's a little video that they can watch. We can customize our own. And this all came out of the Public Library Association grant that we received for the $6,000 a little bit earlier in the year. So we bought some computers and we are trying out Niche Academy to see how that works for us as well. Just provide, like I said, it allows us to provide for some training. It would also allow us, if we decide we want to get back into doing some virtual story times, it would let us do that despite the copyright issues because we'd be able to lock it down to a smaller, so we can offer some programming through that, training on pretty much any topic, that we want to provide. Like I said, they do have some stuff that both they've developed and that other libraries have developed and that are willing to share with libraries across the country. So we are kind of just getting started with it and hopefully going to be able to, use that to its fullest.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for CL about the monthly budget report? Joe, that was a very thorough job.
Yes.
And hearing no other additional questions, I'll accept a motion to approve the monthly budget report as submitted.
Motion to approve the monthly budget report as submitted.
And do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the monthly budget report as submitted. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And on to new business item 2, consideration and possible action to approve the library gift fund. The gift fund reconciliation is in your packet. Looks very similar to what it did last month. Are there any questions about the library gift fund reconciliation report? Hearing none, I'll accept a motion to approve the report as submitted.
Motion to approve the report as submitted.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the library gift fund report as submitted. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Hearing that none, the motion passes. And now CL, on to consideration and possible action to approve the fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Yes. I did meet with Jim Barbie, our county manager, to discuss this and to talk about where we've added some funds and how we've, done some things. He seems to be in support of what we've got here, so it will be up to the county commissioners to, to do their magic and hopefully find the money to continue to support us at this level. Overall, the budget is not much of an increase over the previous year because my salary is less than what Carol's was. But we did add some money, as I said. We always try to add money for books and materials. That's partly because with the, again, going back to those minimum standards, we are currently on a, there's a few different options for our materials, but we currently are committed to spending 10% of our budget on books and other, well, it doesn't have to be books, any type of library materials. So that's part of that.
CL, before you move on from that one, so is that, let's see, books and periodicals. Okay, so that's the one you're talking about. It's got a $5,000 increase from the past
Right.
year, right? Okay.
Right.
And-
There's also an increase. I had asked, because we do have to report it out separately, and also because I felt like it was good to keep track of what we were purchasing in terms of physical materials, AV versus ebooks and e-materials. And so you'll see that we have the e-materials line, which actually has no money in it, because we've been drawing off of the AV and ebooks. So I did request overall between those two lines, I've got the 7,000 and the 35,000. It's an increase over the 40,000 from the previous year.
CL, just really quick, further down, under contracted services and platform fees, it looks like,
That one there.
well, and I guess this isn't entirely true, but the platform fee budget has stayed steady. The contracted services has decreased by $2,000. As I was reading through this, I thought that maybe those two were related, but it seems like they're not. Can you, oh, okay. Can you just talk about what is in that contracted services line item and why you feel okay about a $2,000 decrease in that budget?
Sure. The biggest thing in that line item is our contract with Envisionware, which does the self-checkouts, the gates that we have, the automated material handler. So that accounts for almost $8,000 of that. Some of the other things that are included in contracted services are, trying to blank off the top of my head, basically anything that we have a contract for that doesn't fit into some other line in the budget. We are, now granted, we have not paid the Envisionware bill yet, but as you can see, we've spent a very small amount of that budget this year, which is why I felt comfortable reducing it and putting the money in other places.
Okay, and then I have also, I noticed that the HSA health savings account line item went up pretty significantly, and I think that's probably in the category of things that are outside of your control, but I just wanted to check on that.
Sure, that is because of the options that the staff chose as far as insurance goes.
Okay, perfect.
And so there's 2 more people on the HSA this year than there has been previously.
Okay. And then also I noticed an increase in the marketing budget. Can you talk about your plan for that?
Well, we did spend a lot on marketing this year. One of the things so far this year, and we still have a few bills that have not yet come in, namely the bill for the map that the chamber is doing. We also have not yet received the bill for the logo. So, and I'd like to do more to promote some of those things going forward. We may not need quite that much, but because, we haven't, I kind of wanted to give us a little bit of space there to do some things because, I do think that it's important to continue to market the library. There's still, I don't know how, but there are still people who don't know all of the things that we provide. And so we'd like to be able to do more things. I've talked a little bit with Mel at the museum, and I know that they send out a lot of postcards and stuff, which is not something that we've done in the past and maybe something that we want to consider for the future. I'd also like to purchase more branded items that we could potentially give out. Not all the time and whatever, but just to kind of get our name out there. I talked a little bit to Janess about maybe doing some car decals with our new logo to, get people thinking about the library and some of those things. And there's just some really cool stuff that's out there. And so I want to kind of take advantage and do more to market the services that we provide. Because as we add new things like Mango, getting the word out can be challenging. Not everybody, registers or, like, what is Mango, I mean.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay. I just have a couple more for you.
Sure.
I just want to note both program supplies and library things, and I know that you've told us before about how previously there wasn't a separate line item for program supplies, and that you
Right.
wanted to keep more granular track of what was spent on
Yes.
actual supplies versus programming. And then the library of things I know is a new initiative that you're pushing forward. So I just kind of wanted to just make note of those.
Yeah.
And then also the increased training budget that, if you could just talk about the plan for that training budget, how you're
Sure.
envisioning it. I understand that you probably don't have it all specifically lined out at this juncture, but just maybe speak to
Sure.
your idea about it.
Right. Well, one of the things is to provide some support for any staff who do need to go through the certification program, which that may extend to whomever we hire for the adult services. There is money in the county's budget, which obviously we would want to tap. There's $1,200 for that, but that would not cover, and I don't know necessarily that we'll be able to cover the full cost because it's going to depend with taking those 21 hours worth of classes, you are fairly well on your way to a master's program. And so while there is a inexpensive option to go through Idaho, somebody may just want to apply some of that to going and getting a master's degree because they really would be, like 2/3 of the way there. So once we know what the county commission approves, we'll have a better idea. And Joe and I and Joff spoke this morning to talk a little bit about how those types of training things have been handled in other departments, and talked about once we know, kind of what we can do with that and what we have to work with, putting together a policy. So that is the goal. There's also been a lot of really fabulous trainings being offered, both by Library Journal and School Library Journal online, and some other things. And we do always, and conferences too. We do always try to tap into whatever we can get through the state library. They will pay for conferences and they will pay for some continuing education. They will not pay for the certification classes. But the max on any one thing is $1,500. So, depending on where it is, and flights and hotels, and, the only reason I even felt comfortable myself putting in for the PLA conference is because I have a colleague who I'm able to room with, because at $200 a night for hotels, I didn't feel like that was, a fair ask for us to, there will be some additional costs beyond the $1,500, but I think it will be under $500, and I think it's well worth it, especially if we're getting 3/4 of it paid for by the state.
Sure. So within that training line item, I just want to take a moment to say that I personally think that professional development is very important as, I don't want to say an amenity in a job, because it really is essential to the job. And I appreciate that you're working with the DA's office and with HR as far as formulating a plan, which I'm operating under the assumption that you will ultimately bring to us for approval as a
Yes.
policy for individual employees to, and staff to seek a stipend or support as they work to achieve the certifications that they need so the library can meet minimum standards without having to make drastic changes to
Yes.
employees and their status. Additionally, I like having that additional money in the training line item, just because I think that if it's not going to, not to be used by individual staff members requesting those stipends, that that can be used in other ways for group professional development.
Yeah, I would really like to do some more of that, and I know you and I both saw the presentation that the Elko Library, I cannot remember the name of that group.
My library.
Oh, yes, no, I can't remember the name of the dog group that that did their training for them and did some of their rebranding for them. But things like that, I think, are really important. We did get a grant this year, and I guess I left that out of my director's report because we only just got it. We did get a grant for $10,000 from the state library to do more to merchandise, and so I'm going to be buying a library display. We currently have stuff out on a table. I'm buying a lot of easels so that we can display books within the stacks, and just some other things along those lines to improve our merchandising, and because people do judge their books by the cover.
Yeah. Okay, so that is the last question that I had related to the proposed budget. Just for new board members' awareness, the way that CL and the library has to navigate this budget process is a little bit different than other departments, because we are the governing board who then is tasked with approving this before it can move forward with being submitted to the county, and then ultimately it's the commissioners who approve it in the end. So CL, it looks good, and congratulations on putting this together. And really, there's only a net increase of about $4,000, which is pretty, I think it's a fair and reasonable increase. So with that, are there any other questions about this proposed budget?
I have one more.
Yes, ma'am.
On the first page, under, let's see, operating supplies. Yeah. We have a 2025 request of $10,000.
Right.
Last year's was $9,000. But what I'm curious about is, if we only spent 40% so far, how do we even justify a $1,000 increase if we're not spending the money?
Well, I have been a little conservative with my spending this year, being, a new director here and not knowing what the patterns are for the library. There are going to be several things that are coming out of that which have not been reflected so far. One is that we just placed an order for 6,000 new RFID tags. Unfortunately, my staff let me know this morning that we used the last one yesterday, so that's not ideal timing, but we are working on it. And we are also down to, we need to place an order for new library cards. And so I've been working with vendors, but I wanted to wait until we had a new logo to put on those. So that's also going to be a sizable expense. We tend to order those in large quantities, and yeah, so, and there's a couple of other things. We've had a number of paperbacks that are not bound super well. I've been looking at all year at, used one in a previous library, a machine which will actually, can even use it before the book falls apart to try to get the glue in there a little bit better, so that, some of the things that are just bound with glue don't come apart after 3 uses. So,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
I'm looking forward to that machine, because I was the first person to check out a book and it fell apart on me, and I felt, as a patron, terrible.
Yeah, it's-
I blamed myself. So.
It's really pretty cool, and if we, want to go forward, there are some programming things that we can even do with it. We can create books. If students want to make a book, we can look at creating some bound books for, the kids programs and stuff.
All right, if there aren't any other questions, I will accept a motion to approve the proposed fiscal year 2024-2025 budget.
Motion to approve the budget?
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the proposed fiscal year 2024 and 2025 budget. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
All right.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And good luck with the remainder of the budget cycle and
Thank you.
presentation.
Thank you. I will definitely be keeping you updated.
All right. And moving on to new business item 4, consideration and possible action to approve the update to the strategic plan. CL?
Okay, well, the format of our current strategic plan, which I did provide everybody with a copy with, because I know Kelly had mentioned when we talked that she couldn't find hers, so, and I wasn't sure if Tara had gotten one, so if you don't need it, I'm happy to take them back so that you don't have, I mean, as much as I know that Dave would like one for, posterity and everything.
This is number 3.
So are there many changes in here? Sue?
Well, there are some things. It was a little difficult. Kelly and I worked a little bit on this, trying to pull out some of the information from the strategic plan, because a lot of our goals seem to be building towards the last two at the end, which were expanding the facility and getting a bookmobile. And some of them were very big goals that were more than really what the library on its own could do, and were kind of more community goals, which kind of worked towards that. So it was a little bit difficult to massage some of this out. So what I did with each of them, you'll see there's a few things that I struck through because it just doesn't seem to be within our scope, or we didn't get the funding. For instance, with goal 1, number 3, fund the expansion of the library. Well, I can't do that without the funds. But then I put an update as to what we've done so that we can submit this, and where we still need to work on some things, and it won't be too long before we need to do a new strategic plan. So that's
Okay.
something to look forward to.
My question really was, and maybe I wasn't clear, was that did this document,
That didn't change.
this did not? No. Okay, because the first page did, a little bit. Oh, maybe it didn't. I guess it's always been 22, 26. Okay, never mind.
Yeah, no, this is completely
Okay, that's
what
the
is in your
that's the last one that we did.
right.
Okay,
What's in your packet is I tried to pull out goals and,
Right.
and objectives.
I got you.
Based on what was in here.
Okay.
And that's what I'm going to submit to the state,
Okay, thank you.
assuming you guys approve it.
No, I agree with the changes that you did make, as far as the updates.
This is going to be submitted to the state? What's the purpose?
It's part of the minimum standards is that at least every 2 years, that we update our strategic plan. Not do a new one, but, at least update and let them know what progress we've made.
Okay, go ahead. I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the last time that the library had to submit anything related to strategic planning to the state library as part of the minimum standards
Would have
form
been-
and packet.
yeah, would have
would
been
have
this one.
been when this was submitted. So now it's 2 years later, and they're just asking for an update about progress made towards achieving goals, or in situations where it has become unrealistic to achieve the goal in the timeline identified by the strategic plan. What's moved and changed and shifted. Are there any questions about the updates to the Churchill County Library 5-year plan as proposed in the packet?
The changes all seem,
Where did the bullets funding is not
Reasonable,
available
logical.
at this time for this goal? Where did that bullet come from? Is that your personal?
That is my update on this, is that at this moment, we don't have the funding to expand the facility. So I've, not that it's not something that we don't still want to work towards, but seems we have not been able to make any progress at this point.
Because I would be very hesitant to take out the goals, and how we were going to accomplish those goals. I would be very hesitant to take those out of this strategic plan and send that to the state. That tells the state, oh yeah, we're just not going to do this. If you tell me, well, we're just not going to expand the library, we're just not going to pursue a technology van, that quite frankly rubs me the wrong way. I think we should continue to pursue an expansion and continue to pursue the technology van until somebody walks in here and says, it's not gonna happen ever.
Well, my intent here was not to say that we're not still working in that direction. We just, at the moment, there is no funding available. So if there's another way that you want me to word that, I'm happy
My
to.
suggestion would be is to leave the bullets in there,
Okay.
don't cross them out.
Okay,
And just, like you did for the rest of the bullets where you had the update, provide the update. The
Okay.
county is not providing funding for this goal.
okay,
Because we still want the state to see, this is what we want to do.
right.
But here's why we're not doing it, because the county won't provide us funding.
Dave, I was going to actually make the recommendation to see if that was something that you would be on board with, is just eliminating the strike-through on goals 8.1, goal 9.1, and goal 10.1, 2, and 3, but include the updates that funding is not available or has not been secured to make meaningful progress towards achieving those goals.
And goal number one.
Goal number one.
Goal number one,
Yeah.
3. Yeah. Yeah, if we, again, I think if we take out the strike-through and just leave, our intention, our goal, here it is. But here's our update. The county will not provide funding, so we can't do it right now.
And to be clear, with the strategic plan, the goal or the understanding was always that there were going to have to be multiple funding sources, but that the investment from your local municipality is often key towards, and a requirement really in a lot of those situations, to move towards the additional funding sources. So that has been the obstacle.
And it always was the obstacle, even when we drew up the plan.
I
It was
mean,
always
it's
based on hope that we would
it would
get
be
the
great to go
funding.
out and pursue other avenues of funding and, get $1,000 here and $1,000 there. We could buy a brick
Right.
or two.
Yeah.
But until the county comes up and says, okay, here's $15 million, let's build a new library. Until then, yeah, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, unless there are private sources,
But
there still has to
if
be
we
a
were to fund the
significant
expansion of the
investment.
library by private sources, we would have a private library.
Not necessarily. There's outfits like the Pennington Foundation, which built our senior center, or, put a substantial amount of money towards it. But yes, no, we absolutely have to have the county's support and probably a substantial amount. It's unfortunate, and I know it was hard to get there when I was in New Jersey, but they were able to finally get some funding through the state approved. I don't know that that's, necessarily a possibility here. And it took a long time, and then there were matching funds were required. They weren't just, and some of the libraries were building $7-8 million expansions or, rebuilds, but there did have to be a commitment by the municipality or the county, depending on the library, to say that, yes, we are going to match these funds and, do that. And
So I also would feel more comfortable and content with leaving those, so goal 1.3, actually, I think it's all the strike through except for goal 4.1. I
Yes.
think goal 4.1 can remain struck through.
right.
But if we can revert the other strike-throughs, and the updates look fine to me, And then just continue to advocate for the inclusion of library expansion, on the Churchill County's
Right.
improvement plan,
Part of
capital
my
improvement
discussion
plan.
with Jim when we met, there are some building concerns too. Our floor is not level in certain spots. And I, mentioned that was certainly a concern of mine. I will be the first one to go down and, but we do have a lot of people with mobility issues and whatever, and, that's a concern. And, the building is just not adequate. Like I said, the fact that we're having to kind of look and go, what can we move and where can we put it and how are we going to do this to take advantage of this study pod, which I think is desperately needed. There is no more space. The staff see me out there with a yardstick or a measuring tape, and they're like, there really is no more space. And I'm like, maybe we can, find.
All right, so I'm going to bring us back to the item on the agenda, which is the action to approve the update to the strategic plan. We have some proposed amendments to that. Is there anything else that we wish to change about this document before I accept a motion?
I think only if, going back to goal 1, if we could also highlight the way you did on the last 3 about the funding unavailability, so that kind of stands out. I know
Sure.
it's kind of referenced in there somewhere, but then maybe put that statement instead at the bottom of update.
Sure.
Of the update paragraph, just so it really stands out.
All right, to surmise then, we have returning goal 1, line 3 to non-strikeout text and adding a similar wording to the updates that appear later in goal 8, 9, and 10. And then forward to goals 8, 9, and 10, removing the strikeouts. And those are the proposed edits and amendments to this document that we have heard. At that, I will accept a motion to approve this document as amended.
Before we move on to that, is this going to go through the county commissioners before you submit it to the state, or is this a straight shot?
This is a straight shot.
I think that's something for the Library Board of Trustees to consider when the county commissioners have their next county commissioner meeting.
To present
We
it to
can
them.
readdress this situation, because I said it at a county commissioners meeting once, when they were talking about building new housing. I said, hey, you're gonna build new housing, you're gonna have more people. You have bite my tongue, you have a small library that needs help. I think if we can continue to do that, onesie twosies at a county commissioner meeting, eventually, some of that return on investment that they're going to get from the 3C arena that they spent $14 million on, some of that return might get filtered down to the library. Because they talk a lot about, the return on investment. So that's my charge to the Library Board of Trustees. Go to a county commissioners meeting, tell them, hey, library still needs some help. Other than that, I would make a motion that we approve the change or the update to the strategic plan as amended.
Thank you, Mr. Brakebill. We have a motion to approve the Churchill County Library 5-year plan as amended. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the Churchill County Library 5-year plan update as amended. All in favor, please indicate with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. And on to our final segment of public comment. And with that, I will call us adjourned at 3:59 PM. Thank you all.
Perfect.